Welcome to Revolt Black News. I'm your host, Eboni K. Williams. Now, y'all know it's been a heavy week with verdicts in around the case of Derek Chauvin. He was found guilty on 2 counts of murder and 1 count of manslaughter. Now, while there's a whole lot of work to be done still in the Black community, we do need to break down exactly what went down in this case. Because here, a Minnesota police officer was not only charged, but actually convicted of the killing of a Black man in America. So here to help me out, of course, lawyer attorney, friend of the show, Chris Stewart, as well as Justin Miller. Thank you both, guys. Chris, I'll start with you. When you were last on the show giving pretty much a preview and deep dive of this case, you called it, brother. You said that absolutely Derek Chauvin would be found guilty on all counts. Some of us, even in the legal community, weren't sure. Chris, how'd you know?
Faith. That's pretty much it. I mean, we were nervous, but the one thing with all the stuff Justin and I have to deal with is you can't lose faith. And that's the one thing that I fear a lot, especially with the Black community, is we lose faith and hope a lot. And we just kind of accept, oh, that's how life is. No, man, just keep the faith, even if it seems impossible. Because the way that you break a human down is to take away their faith and their hope. And then they're lost. Then you resort to whatever you got to resort to. You cannot lose faith or hope, no matter how bad it looks.
Absolutely. Now, Justin, I want to talk to you about the dehumanization of Brother George Floyd. Now, we saw it when he was tragically killed with that knee on his neck. And then we, of course, saw it again in the courtroom, the way in which the defense arguments were all about making George Floyd's death George Floyd's fault, blaming it on certain behaviors, and just really painting him as a typical angry Black man. Can you speak to that, and also the way that the prosecution had to work to counter those arguments by humanizing George Floyd in their case?
Yeah, well, this all started in the beginning when Chris and I were trying to make sure everybody understood that this was not the George Floyd trial. This was the Derek Chauvin trial. And we said that time and time again, just to make sure that everybody understood George Floyd is not on trial. So when the attack started happening and the character assassination started happening, we had already told the family what was going to happen. They didn't really have, and they being the defense, didn't have a great case just because everybody saw what happened, 9 minutes and 29 seconds of murder on television. So they had to go to the character assassination route. And this is the route they go to anytime. So in a situation like this, we knew it was coming. So we prepared the family, and then we thought the prosecution did a really good job, especially when they brought up his brother Phalonis, and he talked about the things they used to do when they were kids. They spoke about Gianna, his daughter, who we represent. And those things kind of let people know that George Floyd isn't just his criminal record or what happened to him in the street. He's a real person and people loved him.
And that's so important. Y'all know that as esteemed attorneys. Personally, I felt really that it was missing when we go all the way back to 2013 and think about the trial of George Zimmerman. I thought that the prosecutors in that case did a piss poor job of humanizing a young, vibrant Trayvon Martin. Trayvon was lost in that case, and I think that's why that verdict, in some part at least, looked the way it looked. Chris, I want to ask you about Derek Chauvin's decision to not testify, to invoke his Fifth Amendment. Now, while of course we know the law tells you not to interpret that as an admission of guilt, and the judge gave that instruction, do you think it impacted the jury's perception of Derek Chauvin, and what do you make of it?
Yeah, I think it did, because I thought he was going to testify because he was taking notes on every single word said. I've never seen a human write that many notes in my life. So I was like, wow, this dude is going to be on the stand, know everything that's ever been said. And then what were the notes for? He didn't even testify. So I think it had an effect because, if you remember Walter Scott, Michael Slaker testified. That cop testified to, try and defend his actions, and it worked. So I thought he was. I was shocked that he didn't. I was shocked at how short their defense was. 2 witnesses? Well, real witnesses. And, but there was nothing you could say when you're caught on tape.
So let me ask you about appeals. Some folks are frankly nervous, concerned that these convictions, which at least feel like some level of accountability, might be overturned on appeal. Particularly, they're concerned that the defense will argue impartial jury because the judge refused to grant that change of venue early on, and just the publicity of the case.
I'm not concerned about it at all. In every single case like this, you're going to get appeals. And, you know, folks need to understand that that's just part of the process, right? Somebody gets convicted and they're going to jail for a bunch of years. They're going to appeal because they don't want to go sit down. But I don't think any of these appeals are going to work, especially the last one regarding the words by Congresswoman Maxine Waters, Representative Waters, what she said, she within her rights to say. And so I don't think that that's going to be enough. The jury, to getting an impartial jury is going to be hard anywhere when you have a video that the entire world has watched. You could try that case in Minnesota, or you could try that case in Miami, and you will still get the same result.
Right.
So we don't think that an appeal is going to be something we really need to be worried about too much.
Biden's Department of Justice, ran now, of course, by Merrick Garland, is going to open an investigation to the Minneapolis Police Department. Chris, what can we expect to come of that kind of patterns and practices investigation, and could it lead to an improved police state?
I mean, I was impressed. I hadn't figured out Biden's stance on policing and what he was going to do yet, but when I saw that, which is why I liked Garland, you know, when he put the name up, I was like, okay, he actually fights, because when Trump got elected, he took away all the consent decrees.
Yeah.
And so he took away all the investigations that were going on, or department reforms. And so that was a good sign, because maybe they're about to reinstitute all of the consent decrees and reforms. So that's a huge step, because when a department knows that they have federal oversight, you act right. I mean, you got to act right.
Yeah.
And so, like they always say, when the feds own you, so it's serious. So that was a big sign.
Yeah. You can say that one more time. I feel like I keep saying it, guys. And, there's even some folks right now in the kind of pop culture spaces in which I exist now that are, facing federal trial. When the feds come for you, they probably already have a lineup of corroborating witnesses who've already testified against you in previous, and they are willing to do it again. So, you better have some act right when the feds are involved. I totally agree, Brother Chris. Chris, also I want to talk about sentencing. We know there's going to be about an 8-week delay here as to when we will see what that sentence looks like for Derek Chauvin, now convicted murderer. Talk about the sentencing guidelines. What can people really expect to see by way of what kind of time this man will get for the murder of George Floyd?
His max that he could get is 40, but, there will be some reductions for the first felony. We aren't really allowed to comment on the sentencing part, because as you've seen, this judge is very aware of parties related to the case commenting. And so the only thing we will say, I think Justin said it yesterday, is that we want him to get the maximum amount of time possible, and we'll stop there.
Hey, y'all. Now, for full episodes of Revolt Black News, tune into Revolt TV. And if your cable provider doesn't carry it, make sure you reach out and let them know that you're trying to join the revolution. I'll see y'all every Thursday night at 9 p.m. Eastern, only on Revolt.